Stop fighting your fear. It's only making you exhausted and it's not working. Instead, learn to forge through your fear. I'm Kanisha Hart. I am the host of the Coach Up podcast, where I get to interview 6 and 7 figure coaches and get to share their stories about how they built their business to that level so new, aspiring, and struggling coaches can find out how they can build their business to that level. And I am also a speaker. I teach people how to forge through fear. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's why I started out with stop fighting your fear. It is not working. So we're going to dive right into it. Okay, so you have fears. So I talk to people about how do you forge through fear to create the future that you want to live, to design the future that you actually want. But you got to deal with the fear first, right? So a lot of times we're taught fight through fear, push through it. But I want you to think about the adage of fighting. Okay, when you're fighting, like we're punching somebody, you are kicking, you are moving a lot. Few things happen when you're in a fight. One, like I said, moving a lot, kicking, doing a whole lot of stuff. That's a whole lot of energy that you're expending when you are fighting. So if you are fighting, you are getting tired, you're exhausted, you are flailing. That's what happens when you try to fight through fear. Also think about what happens when you're in a fight. You get hit. You're going to take some hits. If you're in a fight with somebody who can actually fight, you're going to take some hits. That's what fear does. So the more that you fight against it, typically, the more hurt you're causing yourself and the more you're getting hurt, right? Like, so think about when you're trying to fight through the fear of, I don't know, let's say you're fighting through the fear of making phone calls that you don't want to make for your business. And you just decided, I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be strong. You didn't do any preparation. Your definition of fight was, I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to do it afraid. There is value to that in a sense. However, there's a difference between forging and fighting. Fighting often, unless you're in a boxing ring or you are in MMA or you've gone through some training, you're just going off instinct. You're going off of reaction. Rarely does that serve us well, right? Planning leads to profitability in any area of your business, in any area of your life, right? When we plan and then we execute, we can find success. Or at least we can then, if we don't find success, we can say, oh, this is what happened, and now I need to change something. Okay, cool. But if you're just fighting off the cuff, which is typically how we approach fear, and you're reacting and you're just responding, you are going to make bad decisions. You are going to tire yourself out. So I go back to the phone calls. So you're like, I'm afraid people are going to say no. I'm afraid I'm not going to do well. So you're just like, I'm just going to get my list and I'm going to call people. You didn't plan. You don't have a script. You don't have objection rebuttals. You don't have a close. You're just doing the action because you're in fight mode. Okay. You can be proud of yourself for doing it, but did it accomplish anything? When you get done and there is no success, or you get to a person and you talk to them and then they potentially could be interested, but because you didn't plan, prepare, you aren't able to close and go through the sale and then you lose it. How devastating, discouraging is that? Because you're fighting, right? You're going off of reaction. You are going off of emotion. That doesn't typically work. So instead, what you want to do is you want to forge through. When you forge through fear, there's a different action. So let me finish on what fighting does. So one, you're operating off a reaction instead of planning. Rarely serves us well. Second, you're exhausting yourself. Third, you're going to get hurt, right? Because like I just talked about, you make the phone calls, somebody's actually interested in what you have to say and what you have to offer, but you then can't close it. Or you self-sabotage yourself because you're not prepared. That hurts you. That hurts your business. That is why we don't fight through fear. We don't allow the exhaustion to come that's going to happen when you are boxing through fear. No, we don't fight it. And also, when you have an enemy, you have to evaluate how you would address that enemy. And fear is an enemy. Fear is an enemy to the future that you want. I just want that to sink in. Fear is the enemy to the future that you want. So anytime you have an enemy or an opponent, whichever one, someone who is trying to block you from your goal, someone or something, right? If you know anything about sports, come from sports, I played sports, played basketball in high school and college. My opponent is not my enemy, but my opponent is trying to get between me and my W, the W that I want. I want the win. You are the blockage between me and that W. I have to overcome you. In order for me to do that well, I have to study you. I have to know where your weaknesses are. I have to create, once I know where your weaknesses are and study you, I have to then create a plan for how to get through and around or over and under or whichever way we're going to go to attack you so that I can then obtain my victory. In this case, obtain the future that I want. For you to obtain the future that you desire, you have to forge through fear, not fight it. Fighting, again, is not going to net you the results that you want. So that's why we have to learn to stop fighting fear. It is an opponent, it is an enemy, and sometimes the best way to engage with the enemy is a couple of things. One, don't engage. If it's not necessary, don't engage. There are times that you can just ignore the fear, go a different route. Maybe not often. But the other way is to study it, learn it, identify it, and then create a plan to go through it. Because then your focus changes, right? What's so important with fear is what we're focusing on. When we're focused on our future, our mindset works differently than when we're focused on our fear. If you're focused on your fear, we're thinking about everything that could go wrong. We're not thinking about how to move through it. We're thinking about everything that could happen that hasn't, that is causing anxiety, nervousness, stress, all those words that ultimately are fear. But when the focus is your future, my focus is the win, right? I'm playing a sport, my focus is the win. So I have a plan that I execute to get to the win. My focus is on the plan. My focus is on what I do. My focus is on what I can control. When we're focused on fear, when we're fighting, I don't even know what shadow boxing is. I'm assuming there's nobody there, so you're boxing, right? Like something that's not there, like shadow boxing. Okay, I believe that's what that is. That's what you're doing when you're fighting fear. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. It is all in our imagination. We're fighting things that we have conjured in our mind, or maybe that we are in a situation and we've seen how it turned out for others. But again, I go to the word that I just said, others. Just because it happened to others does not have to mean that that is your outcome. So again, we're fighting fantasy. We're fighting non-reality. And that is just exhausting. Not going to get you anywhere. And that's the wrong focus. So when you focus on the future, you focus on a plan, which allows you to forge through the fear, then you start to make progress. That is why fighting fear makes no sense. We take steps to eradicate, if possible. I do believe that there's eradication that comes through Jesus Christ. We take steps to do things in spite of fear. We take steps to make forward movement through fear. We forge through it. But fighting fear is not the way to overcome your fear, right? But we love that word. Why do we love that word? Because it makes us feel strong. Fear makes us feel weak. Fear makes us think, oh, I'm not strong. I'm not where I want to be. All of those things. 100%. I get it. So we think if we're fighting through fear, it makes us feel strong. It makes us feel like we're doing something. It makes us feel like we're being proactive. And we definitely want that confidence. Add that confidence to a purposeful plan that is focused on the future outcome, not on the fear. Because when you're fighting something, it's in front of you, and that's what you're focused on. If you're focused on the future, then you operate differently. Then you focus differently. Then you have progress that's different. So We have talked over the last couple of videos, one, about picking the one fear in your life that is either most prevalent or that you feel like you can tackle, right? That's been the conversation. That was the conversation on a couple of videos ago. Because as we're talking about forging through fear, we're going through a process. So the very first one is, and let me give this disclaimer, we cannot forge through every fear at the same time. And fear is an enemy. It is an opponent. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue to attack. Just what it is. We build the stamina. We build the tools. We build the techniques within ourselves to know how to forge through those fears anytime they come. And as you do it, just like with any muscle that you train, anything that we do, we get better at it. We get more efficient at it. As we practice it more, we get more persistent. We become more competent, and then we become confident in doing it. And then it becomes second nature, right? So right now, pushing through any of the fears that we're finally addressing, finally facing, it takes more intentionality, takes more effort. But as this skill becomes a habit to you, as the fear comes, as the opponents come in whatever situation, whatever new level you go to, whether it's relationships, whether it's a situation in a relationship, whether it's a problem in a family dynamic, whether it's an issue with a friend, whether it is a job opportunity and very excited about it, but very nervous about, oh my goodness, a little fearful. Can I do it? All these things come, uncertainty, which is rooted in fear of some kind. But as you practice the habit and you get better at it, you do it more and you use it more, those things come and you are able to forge through them faster. So we're starting with the steps on how to do that. So the first one we talked about a couple of videos ago was identify just one. We're starting small. That's how you start anything. You start small. I know. I am a person who wants to look at a problem and be like, let's knock this out in 72 hours. And the problem took like 72 months to build. Okay. I know I'm not alone. I know that some of you all who have lived in this microwave society and it has become your mentality and we wouldn't just do everything quick. Even though I think that way, you may too. We still have to live in the reality that while Jesus can do stuff suddenly, sometimes it takes us a little longer to do that, even in partnership with him. So know that all your fears we're not going to fix immediately, or we're not going to fix the fear, period. We're getting better. We're fixing us. So we start with one. So I want you to pick one fear that you want to address right now in your life. Second thing we talked about in the video for the next step was identify why you have that fear, because you got to know, where is it coming from? What's the root of it? Why do I have it? And then today, third, as we talk about shadow boxing, fighting fear does not work, I want you to do the first step of deciding how to forge through that fear. So what is that going to be? Because you now have identified the fear that you're going to work on. And the second thing is you've identified why that is the fear. Now, the third thing is you're going to make the decision about just one action you're going to take toward that fear or against that fear, if you want to put it that way. So let's say an example. I like to say coming on YouTube. I have shared in an earlier video that I should have been on here talking about forging through fear. This is the new platform that the Lord has given me to talk about 2 months ago. Just now starting, nonetheless. Why? What was the fear? There were numerous of them, ones around them about starting, but I'll just pick one. So the fear was starting the live presentation, starting to speak about on the platform that he had given me, which is Forging Through Fear. But coming on YouTube was one of them. And so I had all the excuses that I've already shared about, oh, I didn't know how to do it live, or oh, I didn't know if I knew how to do thumbnails and all this other stuff. Even though the live thing shouldn't have even been an issue because I could have just made the videos and then uploaded them. Nonetheless, let's move on. But if I say the one thing that was a fear was nobody would actually show up. Okay. So I had to say, all right, that is the fear. Why? So that was the first step, identify the fear. Why am I afraid that's a fear? So I'll share. Why I was afraid that was a fear is because, again, I go back to the microwave thing that I have. I know some of y'all have it too. Don't act like you don't. The microwave thing where I think, oh, I just want to start and go live or upload a video, and I want there to be, I don't want 100,000 immediately, but can I get a good 45, 50, something to start with? And if I don't get any, how long is it going to take me to get there? And because I don't know the answer to that, I don't even want to start because I feel like it's going to take forever. Yeah. So my why was me wanting immediate success without putting in any work or effort. I know that doesn't work. Mentally, I know that doesn't work. But emotionally, I wanted to sit in that space. And I talked about on another video, fear makes you fat. I wanted to sit in that space and let it expand like fat does when we eat way more than we're supposed to on a way too regular basis. And so I did for a little while. But I had to come to the realization that I'm never even going to get to 45 or 50 people watching if I never start, if I never upload anything, if I never go live. And so, third step, the one that you're doing today, one action that you're going to do to start stepping, because when we forge through something, it is a stepping process. It's a walking through something. There'll be lots of steps in this process. First step is going to be one step that you're going to do, just one, on step number 3, one step that you're going to do to forge through that fear. And you got to decide what that is, right? And as you're listening to me, I want you to, you might hear my voice now in the background, but hear what I'm about to say. I want you to start thinking about this now. What I don't want you to do, you may, but I don't want you to do like stop the video, watch to the end, and then be like, I'm going to write it down. No, you know right now what it is that you need to do. Yeah, in just those few seconds. I know it came to you. Oh, okay. This is what I could do. So again, I'll use myself as an example. When I was using the excuse, sitting in my fatness of fear of not getting on YouTube, I was using the excuse of, oh, well, I could go live, but I don't know if the service that I use to go live will allow me to go live. Do you know what I had to do to figure that out? Go to the service, see if it would actually let me go live. And amazingly, it does. All I had to do was pull up a website, log into the service that I already have an account with, check a setting. But I didn't want to do that because I was afraid to actually start speaking on this platform that the Lord told me to speak on. So I chose not to do just a simple action that would allow me to do what I was afraid to do. You're doing that with something. So stop fighting the fear and just do one action today. One, just choose one action that you're going to do that is pushing you through that fear. Just one. I did not say 18. I did not say do the fear. Do what you're afraid of. No, I didn't say that because you heard my example. My fear is that nobody's going to pay attention to me when I talk about forging through fear. I will not have an audience. It will not go over well. That's the fear. But there's a lot of things that have to be done in order to even start to forge through that, really. There's a lot of things that have to happen to even test to see if that fear has any basis, which it probably doesn't. Because even as we talk, there are 2 of you all who have tuned in. Thank you. That's a start. I'll take it. I appreciate you. So the action that I took was just to check. The very first action was just to check if the system that I needed to go live, to share the platform that I was afraid to share, was available. So again, I'm not telling you to do anything that is like within your fear. Like if you had a fear of spiders, we're not talking about those type of fears, but I'm just going to use it as an example. I am not telling you to go to the zoo and ask them to let you handle tarantulas. Nobody's asking you to do that. But what you may say is, I'm going to pull up a website and I'm going to read about a spider just to educate myself. That's starting to forge through fear. One action. That's all I want you to do. Just one action. If you want to get, all right, I recapped. We're on step 3. I recapped all 3 steps as we're working to forge through fear. And we talked about how fighting fear is exhausting. It's not helping you, not the tactic that we want to do. But if you want to hear the other conversations about fear making you fat, and then the first video, go back, listen to them, check them out. But I'll be back again to talk more about how we forge through fear. And we'll talk about the next step that you need to take as you forge through fear to create the future and design the future life that you want to live. Because that's what's on the other side of forging through that fear. That's what we're here to do. Again, I'm Kanisha Hart. We are forging through fear to create the future that we want. Let's go.